go to church, they're challenged trying to figure out how does the message, or how does what, quote unquote, being a Christian connect with my masculinity. I said unwittingly the message is feminized, even some of the songs are feminized to the degree that men like upbeat songs. If you watch football and you listen to Fox Sports and you watch Monday Night Football, you watch SportsCenter, and you listen to anything related to sports, it's a very upbeat, kind of hard, masculine beat, for lack of a better word. And oftentimes when men come to church, they don't hear songs that have that type of cadence. And I'm not trying to make a statement on intonation or cadence one way or the other, but my point is, at times the message can appeal so much to the women that men feel left out. So we've been engaged in a teaching series entitled Becoming a Man Who Matters, a man who's a legacy leaver and a history maker. Each man's life will serve as one of two things, either an example or a warning of what not to do, or an example of what to do and how to be followed and how to model things. So each one of us has to challenge ourselves and say, is my life going to count as an example or a warning? Am I going to be one of God's thousands of disappointments, or am I going to be one of his few successes? So we're talking about becoming a man who matters. Now, by now, you know that we've been systematically talking about male issues, highlighting some of the Bible characters. And again, I have teaching series on all of these characters. So the purpose of these meetings are not to reteach that material. You're going to have to go to our website. We have teaching series on David. We have teaching series on Daniel. We have teaching series on Nehemiah. We have teaching series on Joseph. But let me just give you the top liners as it relates to men from some of these male characters, just to refresh your memory. David's life teaches us, and I'm going to go quickly, that no amount of public success can make up for being a failure at home. Every man needs to realize no amount of public success, no amount of staff, no cornered office, no gated community, no European sports car can make up for being a failure at home. That's not the totality of David's life, but that's one of the takeaways that I want men to glean from his life. He was the king. He had it all. And if you know anything about David's story, in 2 Samuel 11, when David fell with the sin to Bathsheba, it is estimated that he was around 52 years old, which leads to one of our other premises that we've been discussing, which is most men in the Bible don't finish strong. Most men in the Bible don't finish strong, and they usually start wigging out around middle age. Solomon didn't finish strong. Moses didn't finish strong. There are other examples. Samuel, in my opinion, didn't finish as strong. Eli didn't finish strong. You look at the kings, and you see many of the kings who didn't finish strong. It's so important. It's not how you start in life, it's how you finish. And there are plenty of good starters in the Word of God. There are plenty of good starters in our modern day environment. But it's how do you finish? And do you have the tenacity and the stamina to keep running the course? Joseph was a man who kept doing right with wrong happening to him. There are many men who find themselves in that situation. I heard a story recently that's shared often, if you're ever familiar with Tony Evans, where his father, I believe, was like a longshoreman, and when he and his mother got married, Tony Evans's mom and dad got married, neither one of them was saved. And Tony Evans' father basically converted to Christianity, and for a long period of time, his mother really resisted it. So in the context of Joseph, he was a man who kept doing right, and yet she was almost mocking him. And finally, when she realized she couldn't break him, she said, there must be something to your religion because I haven't been able to break you, so I want to know more about this Jesus. And she went to church with him. Solomon's life teaches us that you don't have to be down and out. You can be up and out. You can be 7 figures and out. He was confused because he attained all his goals, and yet it was vanity, to quote him, futility. His life teaches us that you can get exactly what you want from life. This is such a deep principle. And apart from God, you won't have fulfillment. I want that to settle in. You can get exactly your dream job, your dream spouse, your dream career, but devoid of God or apart from God, it won't bring fulfillment. Ecclesiastes 6:2 in the Amplified says, it's the Lord thy God who gives you the capacity to enjoy things. You can get things, but do you have the capacity to enjoy them? The New American Standard says of Daniel that Daniel enjoyed success. Notice it didn't say he was successful. There are a lot of people who are successful, but the question is, are they enjoying it? Daniel was a man who lived an uncompromising life in a compromising world. He's one of my heroes. He is literally one of those guys who went into foreign territory. He went into hostile environments. Many of you think your work environment is very hostile. You need to read the story of Daniel because his life shows us the power of a conviction. God vindicated him. Jonathan's life teaches us that if you observe something that your father did that bothered you, you don't necessarily have to repeat it. He saw things in his daddy that he realized, I don't want to repeat, and he changed the baton pass. Pharaoh's life teaches us the danger of running to God for relief, and as soon as he grants it, you return right to your old stubbornness. Pharaoh, 10 times, 10 plagues, 10 is the number of testing. He's a man, his life teaches us the danger of always running to God when you want relief, but as soon as you get it, you go right back to that old mindset, old behavior. And the man we're going to talk about momentarily is one of my favorites. Haven't spoken about him in a while. We have a 5-week teaching on him, but Nehemiah. And Nehemiah is someone who wanted to rebuild something back from the ashes, from the rubble. If there's anyone in this room who's experiencing Katrina-like, that's a stretch, but standing in rubble or standing in the midst of what used to be, and you're trying to figure out, how do I rebuild? You'll want to study Nehemiah's life. And we're going to look at his life momentarily. But before we do that, I want to identify, if you're going to become a man who matters, 10 character flaws that you need to work on. 10 character flaws that you need to work on if you're going to become a man who matters. Now, I admit, these were taken from a book in my research called Flawless. I haven't had the opportunity to read the book yet, but the 10 character flaws, without question, provide a tremendous outline. So let's go through them one by one. Character flaw number 1. If you're going to become a man who matters, these are character flaws that you have to address, that I have to address. Character flaw number 1 is being addicted to being right all the time. Being addicted to being right all the time. As men, we have egos, we have pride, we don't like to show weakness. But it's a dangerous pattern if you're addicted to being right all the time. If you've ever worked for someone like that, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Number 2, raging indignation. Raging indignation. I mean, the simple question is, when is rage okay? Anytime. The Bible talks about righteous anger, but raging indignation. And this is a tricky one because as a man, the only emotion that we are comfortable at times are comfortable showing is anger. And that's the one that's quote unquote sociably acceptable. I say that tongue in cheek. As a man, you can't break out into tears. You can't look like you're confused. You can't look like you don't know what you're doing. But anger, tongue in cheek, is sociably acceptable. And you have to be careful about raging indignation. I tell women all the time, be careful of the man whose the only 2 emotions he can show are anger and lust. Be very careful of that individual. The third character flaw that we need to address if we're going to be a man who matters is fixing blame and nurturing resentment. Fixing blame and nurturing resentment. Simply put, justified resentment.